9 methods for circuit board repair. First, check if the circuit board has been dropped, if it is deformed, if any traces are broken, or if there are any scratches. Also, check if the battery has leaked. Check if the traces are corroded or if any resistors have turned black. Look for any cold solder joints on the pins and see if any capacitors are bulging. If there are signs of previous repairs, check whether any chips have been installed backwards. The second method is to smell the circuit board to see if there is a burnt odor. If there is, focus your inspection on that area. Is there a spot that's already burned? The third method is to use your hand to feel some of the components on the board, especially the chips, and check if there are any abnormal temperatures, places that shouldn't be hot but are, or places that should be hot but are cold. When checking the state of operation, you can also tap the heat sinks and use your fingernail to scratch them to see if there are any cracks in the middle. The fourth method is to tap the board while it's operating normally. Gently tap it with your hand or the handle of a screwdriver and see if there are any changes in the picture or sound. If there are changes, it's very likely due to poor contact or a loose connection. The fifth method is to use a hot air gun to heat some key areas and see if the board can function normally. Some faults, especially those that are not obvious or are intermittent, sometimes work and sometimes don't. In such cases, you need to use this method. If heating it makes it work, but it fails again when it cools down, then it's likely either a loose connection or a chip or some component has degraded in quality. Your regular test might not be able to detect a loose connection, so try resoldering to see if that helps. If resoldering doesn't work either, then just replace the component. The sixth method is to measure. Use instruments to measure, such as a multimeter or an oscilloscope, to check some of the main signals. For example, check whether the power supply is present, measure its voltage. For microcontrollers, you might check whether the clock and reset signals are functioning according to their specifications, or refer to the manual of the component you suspect. Check whether all its various signals are normal. The seventh method is swapping. Find a board of the same model and move the suspected part as a whole from the faulty board to the good one, or from the good board to the faulty one. By comparing the results, you can identify where the problem lies. Of course, this method is used after you have already tried the previous methods. If you still haven't found the cause after all those steps, you can try this. The eighth method is cleaning. For example, after a thorough round of inspection, you might find a lot of rosin and flux residue on the board, making it hard to see the circuits clearly. There could also be dust and all sorts of debris inside, which could cause issues. If you clean it thoroughly and then inspect it again, things will be much clearer. Why? Because sometimes sweat or moisture can connect to the pins and cause a short circuit, but if you wash it, that will be washed away. When it comes to cleaning, you can use dish soap or even tap water in some cases, but make sure to dry it thoroughly. On the software side, you should also clean it, reset it, restore factory settings, and let the battery discharge a bit. The ninth method is the stimulation method. For example, with some logic chips, they have input and output terminals. I can apply a high or low voltage or send a signal to the input terminal and then check whether the output signal is correct. If the output is correct, the chip is good. If it's not correct, the chip is faulty.